So this is kind of a fun video to do. Mazie Hirono, who's a senator and Democrat from Hawaii, was doing some sort of interview, and she was being asked about how can we make the Supreme Court a bigger issue for Democrats, and her response was basically that Democrats are very smart and they're good at talking to people here in their brain, but not so good at talking to their heart or emotional appeals. And I find this hilarious for several reasons. The first is, on just purely a practical standpoint, I actually think that what she said is the exact opposite of the truth. Not only is she wrong, it's the exact opposite of the truth, because I think that any objective person would say that, in fact, the Democrats actually do a much better job at appealing to emotional appeals than the Republicans do. They're good at putting their arguments in terms of morality instead of just logic. The common cliche is that a Republican that disagrees with a Democrat thinks the Democrat is dumb. A Democrat that disagrees with a Republican thinks the Republican is evil. That's because, I mean, granted, it's a cliche and it's an overgeneralization, but the idea is Democrats are better at appealing to senses of morality. And this is backed up, actually, by some scientific evidence. Jonathan Haidt at Heterodux Academy, he's a fantastic professor that talks about kind of the homogeneity and in academia, and how it's basically becoming more and more a bastion of just left-wing think, particularly in the humanities. He did these studies where, I'm overgeneralizing, you should check him out. You can check him out on YouTube and learn about these studies. It's Jonathan Haidt, Haidt. He did this study where he asked a bunch of people their political affiliation, students and professors, I think, and they tell them, Republican, Democrat, somewhere in the middle, etc. And then he has them fill out kind of this questionnaire, and the questionnaire is all kinds of hypothetical questions. Like, it might be something like, you come across a homeless person on the street, what do you do? And there's all kinds of answers you could have. You could help them by giving them money, take them to get new clothes, do nothing, etc. Advocate to your congressperson or local authority that something be done. And then he takes all the results of these, and then he asks these people, now, I want you to fill out the questionnaire again, but this time I want you to fill it out as if you would assume someone of the opposite political persuasion would do. So if you're a Republican, fill it out as the Democrats would, and if you're a Democrat, fill it out as the Republicans would. And his study showed that overwhelmingly, that Republicans, people that self-identified as Republican, were actually quite good at guessing how the Democrats would have filled out this questionnaire. But the Democrats were totally abysmal at guessing how the Republicans would fill out the questionnaire. In fact, the Democrats always chose what they would consider the most morally reprehensible answer for almost every decision. So they basically just thought Republicans are evil. They'll kick the homeless person while he's down, in every possible situation. Where the Republicans would say, well, we think that the Democrats would do this. We don't think it's the best situation, but this is how they would approach the situation. And it just goes to show that Democrats actually are better, I think, at appealing to morality and at the kind of affairs of the heart. Working on emotional appeals, in other words, is kind of the way to put it. Now, although I don't like that, I think that we should be enacting policy based more on logic. Obviously, emotional appeals are always going to have some place, but I definitely think we should be voting and making policies based more on logic than just short-term emotional appeals. But the truth is, it's effective, and it actually works for the Democrats, and it's something that, as a Republican, I would like to see the Republicans do better. They need to, don't abandon the logical approach, but you also need to be able to add the morality approach to it as well. Now, by no means does this say that I think that all Republicans are smarter than all Democrats, or even most. I'm not saying that. I think that a lot of these emotional arguments that the Democrats make, there are people in the Democratic Party that make those arguments using logic very compellingly. A lot of my friends that lean left-wing make very good logical arguments for their positions. I might disagree. So I'm not saying that they are all dumb or anything like that. I'm just saying they happen to also be very good, much better in general at making emotional appeals than the Republicans. So I think that her statement's just not only factually untrue, but the opposite of the truth, one. Secondly, it's kind of funny listening to Hirono talk about how smart the Democrats are, because I'm not saying that she's not an intelligent person, but her showing in the past 3 months or so, she said some really questionable things that I would say speak to at least being dumb things to say, if not questioning her intelligence on the whole. For example, she said famously that men need to step up and shut up. yeah, that's an intelligent thing to say. That's based on logic and not appeals of the heart. She made all kinds of accusations how Kavanaugh was guilty until proven innocent, because that's an intelligent thing, right? To get rid of that system. She had all kinds of baffling questions about ICE and what it does and how it works. She made a comment at one point that Katie Blasey Ford had witnesses corroborate her story, but Brett Kavanaugh didn't have any witness corroborate his story. So it just becomes very interesting to see her talk about, oh, this is how smart the Democrats are. And this is like, you might not be the one to give that message. Let's leave someone maybe that came off a little more intellectual in their candidacy or their efforts in being a representative as a Democrat than you. Just saying. Who knows? Maybe she's actually a really smart person and she just had some dumb moments. But that's all I really know of her, what you see in public, and most of it doesn't seem like something intelligent points that she's making. Now, I also think this is indicative of something you see occurring more in the Democratic Party, where there's kind of this arrogant intellectualism where they'll say all the time, they'll make arguments like, Republicans are less educated. And there's always this assumption, it's been going on for years and years, like this idea of flyover country, and that Republicans tend to be these country bumpkins. And that's fine. Like, I understand the less educated point is technically true. When they're talking about educated, they mean like how advanced of degrees or education that people have had. But I would argue that just because you went to a university and you're more educated doesn't mean that you're more intelligent. In fact, I have a master's degree, but I had trouble getting my toilet seat put on. I had to have my wife help me. So who's more intelligent in that situation? And that's clearly just one situation, but I know all sorts of people with incredible intelligence around here that barely graduated high school, but they're a wizard on fixing a car or building a barn or a roof or a house or all sorts of other, operating a farm. So it seems that there's a lot of like kind of conflating, lesser educated with, well, these people are dumber, that's why they vote Republican. And I don't think that's necessarily true at all. I don't think your education status is really a good measure of overall intelligence. And it's funny because the Democrats don't, not everyone, but a lot of the Democrats that do this, they don't bat an eye doing it. But if someone were to make the same argument and say something like, well, if we're just looking at the numbers, it turns out that a lot of minority groups tend to vote Democrat, and a lot of them tend to have lower education levels. That would somehow be seen as taboo. You wouldn't be allowed to say that. That would be a terrible thing. What, are you implying that these minorities aren't intelligent? No, that's not what's being said. But the mere fact that they would react in that manner proves that that's kind of how they're feeling when they say that about Republicans in general. It just goes to speak, like, I think that there's this kind of elitism that goes on, and that's why you're starting to see that the numbers show the Democrats are kind of becoming the party of the very poor and the very wealthy. And they're just, along with being the party of the very wealthy, I think you see a lot of like Silicon Valley and this kind of tech groups and Hollywood type people, and there's an arrogance about them. They think that they are smarter than everyone else, and they don't understand how people could choose to vote Republican, or particularly for someone like Trump. So Hirono's statement kind of brought that as reminiscent to me of this kind of idea that the Democrats, the Republicans are stupid. Now, granted, I'm not going to kid myself. I know Republicans say the same thing about Democrats. Just go on Facebook and you'd see the back and forth nonstop. It amuses me quite greatly to see the insults hurled back and forth. Many times the worst insults being made by people that aren't displaying too much logic themselves. So, I'm not saying just one side does it, but it does seem that just this, us Democrats, we appeal here. We know so much. We're so smart. We're left-brain thinkers. Okay, Hirono, we hear you loud and clear. Like I said, maybe you want to get a more intellectual sounding person to spread that message. So, just a funny little video. I'll link the video below, but I thought it was worth commenting on. So, feel free to like and subscribe if you like my videos. As always, I do live stream every Friday at noon, and have a good one.